The overhead lights hummed, casting a sterile, unrelenting glare across the marble surface. Farrah Aldjufrie sat perfectly still, her spine pressed against the back of the chair. Across the table, the producer adjusted a microphone, the faint click of the mechanism sounding like a gunshot in the quiet room. Farrah watched the movement, her gaze unblinking. She did not lean forward or fidget. She kept her hands clasped on the cool, polished stone of the table, her knuckles white. The producer cleared his throat, the sound dying instantly in the heavy, pressurized air. Every shadow in the kitchen seemed to retreat, leaving no place for evasion. Outside the window, the world moved on, but inside, the clock ticked with deliberate, agonizing slowness. Farrah took a measured breath, her chest rising and falling with practiced rhythm. She looked directly into the lens of the camera positioned just behind the producer. The silence between them stretched, thick and suffocating, waiting for the first word to break it. She shifted her weight, the chair legs scraping against the floorboards. A sharp, jarring sound that cut through the stillness. She was ready. The room held its breath. Farrah did not hesitate. She slid her right hand across the marble surface and rested it flat against her stomach. The movement was deliberate, a slow press of palm against fabric. She kept her eyes locked on the producer, her expression remaining neutral, devoid of any softening. "I am pregnant," she said. The words were quiet, measured, and stripped of any inflection. They hung in the air, unadorned. The producer froze, a pen hovering inches above a notebook. He did not ask a follow-up question. He simply stared, his mouth slightly parted. Farrah pulled her hand back, curling her fingers into a loose fist on the table. She waited for the shock to register, observing the producer's sudden inability to maintain his professional distance. Outside, a car horn blared, but the sound failed to penetrate the sudden, jarring vacuum in the kitchen. She shifted her posture, leaning back, the chair groaning under her weight. The air, previously heavy with anticipation, now felt thin, charged with the weight of the information she had just released. She watched the producer blink rapidly, the gears of the interview grinding to a complete, unexpected halt. The bombshell had landed. She did not look away, letting the silence expand until it became impossible to ignore. The news did not stay within the kitchen walls. It migrated instantly to the screens of millions. For months, the digital trail had been laid, and the audience had been tracking it with surgical precision. Thousands of users scrolled through years of archived social media posts, magnifying pixels and cross-referencing timestamps. They zoomed into the corners of vacation photos, highlighting a sliver of a watch face or the edge of a sleeve. They debated the lighting in summer snapshots, comparing shadows to known locations. Every tagged post from the last year was subjected to a forensic audit. Comments sections transformed into investigative threads, where fans pieced together a timeline of secret departures and unexplained absences. The curiosity was relentless. It was a collective hunt for a man who had been edited out of the public narrative. Each user acted as a detective, connecting dots that Farrah had carefully obscured. The speculation grew from whispers in forums to global trends, creating a massive, invisible pressure that built with every passing hour. The fans did not just watch, they dissected. They turned her curated online presence into a map of hidden secrets, waiting for this exact moment to confirm their theories. The public hunger for the truth had reached a breaking point, fueled by months of obsessive searching. Farrah sat perfectly still. She listened to the hum of the refrigerator, a sharp contrast to the digital noise she knew was growing outside. She did not speak. She reached down to the floor where her leather bag rested against the chair leg. The zip made a sharp, metallic sound as she pulled it open. Her movements were slow, deliberate, and entirely unhurried. She kept her eyes on the producer, meeting his gaze while her fingers searched the interior of the bag. She felt the edge of the envelope. She gripped it firmly, her knuckles whitening slightly against the grain of the paper. She pulled the photograph out, keeping it face down against her palm. The air in the room seemed to press in, thick and heavy. She brought her hand back to the marble surface of the table. She tapped her fingers twice on the back of the photo, a rhythmic, steady sound that punctuated the silence. She did not rush the reveal. Every second she held the image was a calculated choice, forcing the producer to look at the paper instead of her face. She adjusted her position, leaning slightly forward, the floorboards creaking beneath her weight. She was ready. The image was now inches away from the center of the table, held in place by the weight of her thumb. Farrah let her thumb slide off the back of the photograph. She pushed the glossy print across the cold marble table with a single, steady motion. It skidded, the edge catching slightly on the stone before coming to a stop directly in front of the producer. The man reached out, his movements hesitant, his gaze darting from the image to Farrah and back again. He picked it up by the corners, his fingers leaving faint prints on the edges. He held the photo at eye level, the overhead lights reflecting off the surface and obscuring the image for a heartbeat. Then, he tilted it. The man in the picture stood in sharp focus. It was the face that had vanished from every public feed, every red carpet, and every tagged post for over a year. The producer exhaled, a sharp intake of breath that sounded loud in the quiet room. He placed the photo back down, face up, and stared at it without blinking. Farrah watched him, her expression remaining neutral. She did not provide context or explanation. She simply waited for the weight of the image to settle between them. The man nodded slowly, his eyes finally meeting hers, acknowledging the gravity of the secret she had kept locked away until this exact second. The broadcast signal hit the network, and the world shifted in a heartbeat. Within seconds, the silence of the kitchen was replaced by the phantom hum of a digital avalanche. Thousands of miles away, screens lit up in bedrooms, offices, and subways. The notification counts on Farrah's social media profiles began to climb, the numbers spinning like a broken odometer. Comments poured into the feeds, a relentless waterfall of text, emojis, and questions. They came from every time zone, a chaotic surge of demand for answers. Smartphones vibrated in pockets across the globe, a synchronized buzz of curiosity that refused to stop. One comment, then 10, then 1,000. The rate of engagement spiked, pushing the post to the top of every trending algorithm. People refreshed their browsers, their thumbs moving in frantic, repetitive arcs. The sheer volume of incoming data crashed the server for a brief, flickering moment. Farrah remained still, unaware of the exact nature of the storm. Yet the intensity of the digital impact was absolute. The global audience had awakened, and they were already tearing through her silence with a collective, hungry focus. The shock gave way to a systematic, digital hunt. Fans stopped typing reactions and started analyzing pixels. One user on a forum posted a side-by-side comparison, pinning the man in the photo against a blurry vacation shot from last summer. The evidence was a watch, a distinct, silver-linked timepiece caught in the background of a sun-drenched beach photo. The thread erupted. People zoomed in, sharpening the image until the grain broke, pointing to the identical reflection on the watch face. It was a digital dragnet. Thousands of eyes scoured years of archived posts, looking for the same metallic glint. They cross-referenced timestamps, geotags, and shadows in the background of every meal, every event, and every mundane selfie Farrah had ever uploaded. The narrative shifted from mystery to puzzle solving. When someone found a second match, a pair of hands holding a drink in a blurry frame, the post was shared 10,000 times in a minute. The investigation became a collaborative sport. They were no longer just watching a reveal. They were reconstructing a year of hidden life, piece by piece, comment by comment, turning the entire history of her social media into a crime scene board. The digital noise did not reach the kitchen. Farrah sat with her back straight, her hands folded firmly on the marble surface. She did not look at the screens or the cameras. She looked directly at the producer. "We met at a wedding," she said, her voice steady and devoid of the frantic energy outside. She leaned forward, tracing the edge of a coaster with her thumb. It was a summer event in a garden, the kind where the music is kept low and the conversations are forced. She described the layout of the tent, the way the light hit the tables, and the exact moment their paths crossed near the guest book. There was no grand cinematic score, just the mundane reality of a crowded room. She explained how they had been mutual acquaintances for years, only to find themselves sitting at the same table by pure chance. She detailed the conversation, the shift from small talk to the realization that they were both at a crossroads. She kept her focus on the timeline, marking the months with deliberate, measured phrasing. Every word was chosen to dismantle the mystery, replacing speculation with a plain, chronological history. The intensity of her composure acted as a barrier, effectively separating her internal reality from the storm of public guessing games. The conversation moved from the past to the present, focusing entirely on the architecture of their life together. Farrah laid out the logistics with the precision of a professional brief. They had discussed the move months ago, choosing a location that offered seclusion before they ever considered the pregnancy. She explained the process of vetting their inner circle, the decision to limit shared digital footprints, and the clear agreements they reached regarding their daily schedules. It was not about grand gestures or declarations. It was about creating a controlled environment. She described the process of reorganizing their shared home, the division of responsibilities, and the way they managed their time to ensure that work commitments never bled into their personal hours. She spoke of stability as a series of deliberate daily choices, checking in at the same time each evening, maintaining separate professional identities, and keeping their primary social circle small and verified. There was no room for ambiguity. When she spoke about the pregnancy, she treated it as the next logistical phase of their plan, a project they had analyzed, prepared for, and executed with calculated intent. Every detail was practical, measured, and focused on maintaining a standard of living that remained entirely detached from the public eye. Farrah reached the end of her explanation, sat for one final beat of silence, then stood up. She smoothed the surface of the table with her palm and adjusted her position. The producer signaled the end of the take. On the monitor, the production cut to a final, static image. The couple walking hand in hand through a park, their features blurred by the low light of the trees. The screen shifted again to show a live feed of social media counters. Numbers ticked upward in real time. Hashtags surged across the global feed. Twitter threads grew by hundreds of posts per minute. Reddit users posted side-by-side comparisons of the park image against earlier vacation photos, drawing lines between locations and dates. The debate reached a fever pitch, moving from gossip to a full-scale digital investigation. Farrah walked away from the table, her footsteps rhythmic against the hardwood floor. She pushed open the heavy studio door and stepped out of the frame. The camera held on the empty chair, the photograph still sitting on the marble table, while the background noise of the studio faded. Outside, the speculation continued to churn, unverified and unstoppable, filling the digital space she had just vacated.